Good evening and welcome to the Icecast. And my name is Shane Shebsey, and next to me is Mr. Olly McMonee. How you doing, Olly?
Very good. Season greetings to you, Shane.
And you, mate? Are you all ready for the season, are you?
I've not bought a single piece of item, but the school I'm working at broke up today. And because the pubs aren't open, I've stayed sober enough to go shopping tomorrow.
That's almost organised, isn't it?
Almost, but it is early. It is early days.
So tonight, it's the penultimate show before Christmas. We've got a very special guest, well, two very special guests on tonight. As most of you probably know, and you might have come on for, it's Mr. Charlie Adlard and Mr. Tim Pilcher, because Charlie has a new book out called Charlie Adlard Drawings and Sketches, which we're
What's that all about?
Well, I wonder.
A leading title if I ever saw one.
So we're going to have a little sneak peek at that book, courtesy of Tim, the editor, and the publishers, BHP Comics. We did get a little promo this evening. Thank you so much to our my local radio station, BBC Radio Shropshire. I had a little spot on there, and they sort of plugged the show for us. So if anyone's listening or watching through that, then hello, welcome to the Icecast, and say hello in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And if you want to ask Charlie or Tim any questions during the show, please do just write in the comments and let us know what you think, or just ask them questions. That's great. So without any further ado, I think we will run VT and get on with it. What happened? That wasn't the
Happened again.
What's going on, Sam? Come on, get it together. Anyway, we won't worry about it. We won't run the VT then. We've all heard it before. Well, that's the Icecast, and I don't know what happened there with the intro, and Sam didn't know what happened either. So
I was just wondering if we'd ever get on.
You recognise that music, don't you?
Oh God, I can't believe you used that one.
It's got a lot of music. You know, there's no singing on it, which is good. They don't want to hear me sing.
The biggest headache of a band song ever, that was. I just remember us all rehearsing that one going, how many bits? How many bits?
It was a tough one. We only played it live once, didn't we?
Yeah, God, we were relieved to get through it as well. I think we all gave each other, well, at least the three of us, as opposed to Phil, the guy that wrote it, who should have known it off by
He messed it up all very well.
With relief, didn't we? It's like, we've done it.
You've done it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so both of you, Charlie and Tim Pilcher, welcome to the Icecast.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back, actually, because you've both been on before. Charlie, you were on our pilot episode before we knew what we were doing. And
now we know what we're doing.
We're still learning.
The opening credits.
Okay.
I'm not casting aspersions, but
and Tim, you've been on before as well.
Such professionals, haven't you? Look at you two.
Wow.
Such a slick operation.
Absolute professionalism. Yeah. Anyway,
you did call it slick, didn't you, Charlie? Just then, slick is what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, just take that one, Olly. Just take that word.
So we are here tonight, not to talk about the professionalism of the show, but to talk about the new book from BHP Comics, which is the art book for you, Charlie. Charlie Adlard, drawings and sketches. So it pretty much does what it says on the tin, I assume.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
And is it predominantly Walking Dead stuff, or is it a whole range of drawings and sketches from across your career?
It's a whole range. It sort of focuses mainly on, shall we say, mainly the time around The Walking Dead, probably the last 15 years rather than the first 10, shall we say. But no, I mean, you just, at the risk of being typecast, which is probably, I probably am already, so it's not, anyway. But, I want to try and show other people that, I do other stuff as well, not just zombies, even though I've spent the last 16 years drawing the bloody things. So
you do vampires as well.
I do vampires, yes.
When did you go
to sleep? Thank you for that, Tim.
He's your editor as well.
No, yeah. It's kind of remind you of the vast variety of your work.
No, but it's an interesting. There is a reason for that though as well, because when we approached Charlie to do this book, he said, "I don't keep anything. I don't do much stuff. I get straight in there and I just start working on things. And there's not a lot of prelim material." And and this was going back quite a way, so there wasn't any kind of prelim materials and everything, so we had to kind of work with what was there. Unfortunately, what was there was actually quite a lot of stuff, but it was all as Charlie says, within the last 15 years. So there was a necessity for that, but also I think it makes the book a lot fresher and nicer by being more contemporary. But the range of topics and things that are in there are really interesting, because there's stuff that hasn't been published anywhere, so there's kind of like Charlie's work for lots of bands and, musicians, and there's lots of music stuff in there, which has not been seen in print apart from perhaps on a CD cover somewhere. And lots of other stuff. So it wasn't just about Walking Dead, and it's not just about comic stuff. It covers quite a wide range of materials.
But there is some Walking Dead content in there, I presume.
Don't worry, everyone. There is some Walking Dead stuff in there.
Oh, yes. Well, we couldn't not do that. Otherwise, we'd just have everyone go, "Where's the Walking Dead stuff?"
Yeah. Well, that's
the irony is over, shall we say, 16 years of doing that book. You could argue the actual stuff that's not been seen or preliminary artwork or anything else is really, really minimal for 16 years worth of work. Because basically, I was doing a comic a month. There wasn't really the time to faff around doing warm-up sketches or prelims or thumbnails or even, I hardly even did thumbnails for covers. I pretty much just got in there with the cover and basically told Robert you either like it or lump it. That's it. So there just wasn't the time, literally. So yeah.
So these are real rarities then, Charlie, that are included in the book.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking just about Walking Dead? I mean,
well, I'm going to go. I like the way the book has been set out. We'll come into that, because obviously you've got the Walking Dead, then it's followed by the vampire state building. Breath of Wendigo, and of course the music stuff as well. I like the simplicity of laying it out in those kind of blocks, and I certainly like the fact you get The Walking Dead out there at the first portion and then go on to Vampire State and Passenger and Other Works. I think it's a great editing trick there, Tim.
Well, it's actually, I have to say that, I mean, part of that is a necessity from the BHP did an initial book in this series, which was based on Frank Quitely's work.
Oh yeah, I've got that book. That's a nice book, that is.
Yeah, it's a lovely book, and that was done in conjunction with him doing an exhibition at Kelvin Grove, and it's kind of the same sort of situation that Charlie just at the. When did it finish? It was the beginning of this year, wasn't it? Just before lockdown, that you had an exhibition at the Shrewsbury Museum.
It ran till last November, I think.
Yeah. So it was just before the end of before the end of last year.
Yeah. So that was a kind of an impetus for us to kind of start going through Charlie's archives. Well, he was doing that anyway for that exhibition. And so it was a good opportunity to start to kind of have a look at this material. So both those books run on a very similar sort of theme, which is to go by kind of titles or groups of work rather than just doing a kind of a random sketchbook thing. I mean, I think you have to have some sort of guidance to it to group this stuff up so that people can at least center themselves. I mean, if you just threw in everything willy-nilly, like maybe a real sketchbook would be, people would get a bit lost. So it helps. And actually, we tried to do it almost in a linear fashion. It's not quite, but it is kind of like, there's The Walking Dead, and then there's the Breath of Wendigo and Vampire State. So there is a sort of a linear sort of timeline in that respect.
Yeah,
and then the music obviously spans those 15, 16 years, I take it, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done a great deal. I mean, obviously doing album covers and things like that is of great interest to me because, it's just the kind of thing I just would love to get more into, similar to any sort of form of illustration. But, I think the first album cover I did outside of my own bands was for a Canadian band called Ravenscoe, who apparently are quite big in Canada. But
all right. I don't know them. Never heard of them.
Nice bunch of guys. Very nice bunch of guys. And I really enjoyed working with them, primarily because it was hassle-free. I've really run the gauntlet from hassle-free stuff, especially with album covers, to incredibly hassly, which was working, believe it or not, with Slipknot on something. Is there any of the Slipknot stuff?
No, we didn't get that in the book.
Don't worry, because
that's the second volume.
And that was a cover, wasn't it?
There was no prelims to that. Most of it was one of my first more digital sort of things anyway. So I think most of it was just designed on the computer. But I won't go into this. It's a long story. I mean, the guys themselves, the band or the singer who I primarily was talking to was great. He was perfectly fine. It was as per usual. It was just the bigger. The bigger the people you work for, the more complicated it is because the more people are involved in that, product. So, of course, as soon as the people above Slipknot got involved, that's when things got, complicated, shall we say.
Yeah.
So,
sticking it all in.
Yeah, but I think the Ravenscoe one was done, that first one was done probably... about 10 years ago, probably, something like that.
Yeah, so Sam, that's near the end of the book. So sort of zoom right to the end.
So let's have a look at what we've got on the screen and sort of have a talk about that. So this is obviously from Vampire State building, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And are these...
sorry,
go on. I was going to say, are these concept drawings, or are they actually from the book?
What we obviously don't really want to do is put just pages from books in because that's not the point. So it's concept stuff. I mean that picture of New York was used again, it's a long story, which I won't go into. It was originally going to be the main cover. That was what it was designed to be. It didn't become a cover. It was a cover, but for the US edition as opposed to the French edition.
Right.
But,
slow down, Sam. Just slow down, Sam, so we can talk about
He's getting all the drinking, I think.
He's waving his hands at me.
So it's all just based. I mean, the Vampire State stuff. I mean, like I say, that was more to show process actually, because the cover was printed, but obviously I had the blue line for that and everything. So we thought we'd put that in, which was a great idea. Tim's, so you've got to show, like I say, process. And sometimes, I'll use blue line and use photographs and things like that, as opposed to just, pencil drawings. So for my layouts. So it's just an insight into how something like that would come together.
Yeah, because you use a slightly different. You did use a different working process on Vampire State than what you did on Walking Dead, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that's how I like to. I know it's a cliche, but change is as good as a rest. So what I like to do with every single project is first work out how I'm going to do it. When I say how, is it going to be drawn physically or is it going to be drawn digitally? And out of those two, what equipment am I going to use? What best suits it? Yeah, so I like to vary my equipment process and everything for each project. There are a lot of artists, and it's fine if that's what they want to do out there, who just seem to have a style. I mean, I've got a style, but it's quite often dictated about whether I use a brush or a pen. It's just that simple. But there's a lot of artists there whose style basically doesn't change. They do the same thing per each project, which is cool, which is fine. But that would sort of bore me eventually, just personally. So. I get quite excited about the idea of the next project I want to do it this way and use that equipment. So, Walking Dead was always, because I started off doing it, literally physically, sat at the drawing board, pencil, pen, ink, etc., etc. It remained that way for the whole run. Vampire State was primarily all digital. I actually penciled it. Physically, but then digitally inked it. The latest thing I'm doing is all digital, so I'm penciling and finishing it digitally. So again, a different process. I'm using different tools within, Clip Art Pro and everything, which is primarily the software I use to draw digitally on a Wacom Cintiq, and. Yeah, it's again just.
And that's with is that with Robbie? That's the story.
Yeah, it's called Heretic, and it's written by my old pal Robbie Morrison, who literally lives now. He didn't used to, but he literally lives 10 minutes drive down the road. So it was inevitable that when he moved up here that we would work together. It's as simple as that. And that's one of the first things we talked about when he moved up here. So finally, he was one of the first people to know about the Walking Dead ending, because I couldn't really not tell him if we were going to do this thing straight after. Because he might have got suspicious. He's like, "Have you got the time to do this?" Yeah, I got the time.
I could do 5 pages a day.
Yeah, so just don't tell anyone, but
I mean, it almost slipped out a couple of times, didn't it? During the build-up to the end of the war. I know that our mutual friend Alex Whiteley from the Shrewsbury Biscuit almost overheard you talking with Eric Stevenson about it. Well, I think but he didn't click, did he? That's what he was talking about.
I was convinced it was obviously Comic Slopia last year, and Eric was there, and Eric was so desperate to talk to me about the book ending that we were stood at the university building in this sort of little square after we'd just done a panel together. It was really the only opportunity we had to chat, to be honest. And we were talking about it, and out the corner of my eye I could see Alex and his mate just hanging around, and I was thinking, I was sort of trying to give Eric a look by, sort of going, Yeah, like this.
Microphone.
Eric's a really quiet, subdued individual normally, but I don't know whether it was my paranoia or whatever, but he seemed to be talking very, very loudly all of a sudden. So I was like, if this gets out, let it be known, it's not my fault. And
we were working on this book.
You were, sorry?
We were working on this book together, and I was been over to yours and everything, and all this. And next thing I know, it's like, oh, Walking Dead's ended. It's like you never told me.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't tell anyone, hardly. I think you told like 2 people, like, and that was you were very good, Charlie.
I told my wife.
Yeah.
It's a good
idea.
I told my bank manager.
Well, was the conversation? You're in for a shock.
Yeah.
I might be on the dole in a month's time.
There might be a few less deposits coming in.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I haven't gone missing.
I think the moral is that Charlie's a very good secret keeper.
Yeah.
Well, I think comic book art creators, if MI5 were ever wanting to sort of take on new spies, I think they need to just go into the comic book world. You lot can keep secrets like no one I know.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, to be honest, I told more people than I think I ended up. There's probably about 5 or 6 people in the end knew, and I was really worried. I was thinking because years and years ago, I got not in trouble, but I got slightly told off by Robert many years ago by not being careful with something. I can't even remember what it was now, and just talking about it while I was doing a signing, and some bloody fan was hanging around.
Bloody fans. They
bloody fans. Charlie loves all of his fans, by the way, guys.
And that was and it got out because of that, or it got out as a rumor anyway. But I learned my lesson from that was to Christ, you can't say a thing without it being overheard. So obviously the people I told, I knew they A, could keep a secret, and B, I was telling them not at conventions, so no one could hear. It was tended to be out of various other places, whatever. But what was really funny, last time I saw Robert physically was when we both were at Angoulême this year, in January. And God, that feels like so long ago.
It's like a lifetime ago, isn't it?
The last.
Well, we thought your art exhibition had happened this year at the top of the program. This year just seems to be bizarrely both slow and fast at the same time.
I absolutely agree. I cannot believe Angoulême. When I say I was at Angoulême, it feels like at least a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
It's still in 2020,
Yeah.
But I was chatting to Robert, and we had this one conversation where we realised we'd told more people than either of us were willing to admit to each other before it was revealed. I think we were obviously both thinking, shit, we better not say how many people have told, because he's not going to be happy, and Robert was obviously thinking the same thing. Oh yeah, I told him, and I told him, and I told him,
Twice the year did. I think we've got an echo. Yeah, somebody's not got headphones. Or is somebody playing the show through speakers?
I haven't got headphones on, but
you got speakers playing the show.
No. Oh, yeah. Well, you're coming out of my own speakers.
Yeah, that'll cause an echo. Have you got some headphones or earphones?
Not that I can plug into my computer. I'm on a Mac.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, we'll try. That's all right. It's always one, isn't there? We'll try.
We'll try. All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's intermittent. It's a StreamYard thing. So we've got a comment from Gary Hill. Hi, Gary. Charlie, I read the entire The Walking Dead back to back while isolating in lockdown 1. We just had a baby, and I was awake at weird hours. It equally kept me sane and took me on an emotional roller coaster. Thank you for the amazing artwork.
Oh, thank you, Gary. That's nice. Nice to know I've taken you on a weird, amazing roller coaster. I can relate to those weird hours when kids were young many years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my sister's going to do all that.
Yeah, thankfully my children are dimly aware that I'm alive now, so it's the other end of the scales, isn't it?
Well, one of your children is an artist as well, isn't he, Charlie?
Yeah, well, nothing to do with what I do. He wants to go on and do fine art at university. He's doing his art foundation course at the minute, and he's just finished.
Like proper art.
Proper art, exactly. Proper art. Yeah, he's a proper artist. I know. He looks down his nose at me. He's like, what's this you doing? You know. And then I just wave a wad of cash at him and go, yeah, doing that then.
Loads of money!
Yeah. When you're earning this, come back, son. Oh dear.
But no, he's doing really well, actually. He got an unconditional offer to go to foundation. They were really impressed with what he was doing already. And the stuff he's doing is really interesting. I mean, the sculpture's a real sort of interesting, it's like a series of boxes with like cut out shapes within them and things like that. So it's not conventional by any stretch of the imagination. And they actually gave him it's a bit weird. They actually gave him a prize at the end. Literally, his last day was today, and they gave him a prize, which is just basically one of the bumper chocolate boxes you get for Christmas. I was thinking, how old are they here? You know, well, these 10-year-olds at Art Foundation courses.
Talking of prizes, I'll get it in now.
Good link.
Yeah, thank you. Right, don't make a point of it. It doesn't work then. So we've got 3 prizes up for grabs, which it was a competition that's run up until this point, which was 3 signed copies of the book. So what the original plan was that I was going to announce the winner on tonight's show. Unfortunately, I had a few little technical hiccups, and I won't be able to announce the winner on tonight's show. So if you're on the show and you're waiting to hear the results of the competition, stay on the show. Watch the rest of the show. But I will be announcing the winner of this competition on tomorrow night's show, which is at 9:00. But if you miss tomorrow night's show, I will also announce the results on our Twitter account and on our Facebook page. So if you have entered the competition, look out for those posts, or just come along to tomorrow night's show and you'll be able to find out who the winners are. So thanks for that. And thanks to everyone who entered. I hope you enjoy your books. Anyway, on with the show. I think it'd be good, Sam, if you're still there. Is he with us at the moment? Oh, no, he's not. He's lost his internet. I was just going to say, can you show some more artwork, please, Sam? And he's disappeared.
I think he's lost interest.
I think what happens is, I think this time of night, he puts his kids to bed. So he just disappears about halfway through the show.
And then he comes back in with a question.
That we've already asked.
Don't get this on tonight with Jonathan Ross, do you?
No, you get much more fun on here. So we've got a couple of comments here. I don't know what this one means. Chris Ball, was it me?
Did he win the convention?
Did he win?
Well,
I'm
thinking there, Ballsy.
I will let you know, Chris, if you are a winner. I think people would be a little bit concerned that it was a fix if one of the ICE team won one of the books. So I don't know about your chances on that one, Chris. We've got another comment from Jordan. How do you say that? Damalpier? Damalpier?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds right.
What part of the world from?
Possibly France.
Lost for inspiration. What do you do to spark some ideas?
Good question.
Well, what was quite interesting, literally only a couple of months ago, I can't remember why I heard this or read it or somewhere, but somebody was defining the difference between an illustrator and a fine artist. And there's nothing to do with my son, actually. This is something completely different. And basically what at the end of the day, the difference between illustration and fine art is that illustrators work to a brief. It's as simple as that. Fine artists don't. Fine artists just sit in their studio and either wait for inspiration to hit or just literally do it. I have to work from a brief. It's very true. So I don't know. I have to have some idea. Whether the brief comes from me or French.
There you go.
Bonjour. And so it's interesting. I've never suffered from any lack of inspiration because I've always had a brief. It's as simple as that. The scripts I get or the ideas I get from writers is my inspiration, and I've never had that blank page problem, because for me that's the writer's problem. They're the one that has to sit there with the blank page, sat at their computer or whatever. I've got something which sparks inspiration straight away. It's as simple as that, whether it's doing a comic script or even again, the weirdest thing, the hardest thing I've had to do of recent times, I'm going to come around to them again, was the second album cover for Ravenscoat. because it was so easy working with them the first time, they got in touch with me about 6 months ago and said, do you want to do the second one? I was like, yeah, sure, Anyway, but the difference was, the first time they had a real distinct idea for what they wanted. The guy came to me, goes, I want this there, and this has to be somewhere, blah, 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 blah. I was like, right, okay, fine, I can work with that. This time, they said, we don't really know what we want. And the title of the album was a bit cliche, but it was, I forgot what it was called. Fire and Storm.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And I just thought, that's a bit vague as well. It wasn't a very, Fire and Storm.
Just do a picture of the Human Torch and Storm from the X-Men.
Yeah. But actually, it became quite an interesting process, because it was not. I don't like it's the same sort of thing when you're at a convention and there's always somebody that comes up to you, and I'm not criticizing, because I think they always genuinely think they're being helpful, but it's not helpful, which is when someone comes up to you and goes, just draw whatever you want. I can see you drawn, Rick or zombies or whatever multiple times. Yeah, just draw. And by that time you've been sat there for 3 hours and you thought, my inspiration has just dribbled out my ears. I can't. Please give me something. Just tell me what to draw, and I'll do it. So it was a similar situation to that, but anyway, it ended up being quite an interesting process, because there was a lot of backwards and forwards then with emails. I came up with some very vague concept, and they said, and for them, then ideas started formulating in their heads as to what they want, and it sort of. And I was doing it all digitally, so it was quite nice because I could change it really quickly, So yeah, and actually, I was really pleased with the outcome at the end of the day. It's a much better album cover than the first one, I think. It's quite. Yeah, sorry, Tim. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, it's an interesting thing you say in the book about. When that moment of inspiration occurs, because there are a couple of pieces in there. There was a piece you did for the Lakes International Comics Arts Festival, where you were given kind of a very loose brief, and you said that you got that kind of like that moment of spark. I think it was a dream or something like that, or you just kind of like went, and you wanted to do something that was different, because they initially thought obviously a Walking Dead kind of piece. And he thought, I want to do something a bit different on that. So
that was for the picture trail, wasn't it? That one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, in the window of Waterstones.
That's right, the window trail. Sorry, yeah. Because that was. I can't can't remember. Again, I can't remember what the actual, because it was a one-word sort of.
I think it was like monsters.
Yeah, just monsters or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, that's right. I think they were all the artists who were asked it were given monsters or something else. Or yeah, there was a couple of different. Hey, there's the Ravens code up. Yeah, well found. That's the
Olly,
second cover. See?
Olly gets the credit for finding that.
Sorry?
Olly gets the credit for finding that.
Oh, well done, Olly.
I had to see it because it looks far better than what you've described. I must admit, I like it. No, I like it a lot. I think you'd under-described it, to be honest, Charlie. That works really well. The contrasting colours, it really stands out.
No,
the funny thing is, as I was looking for this band, there must be a school called this, because the first thing I saw was just loads of kids' pictures, and I don't want to share that online. So,
that'd end your teaching career, wouldn't it, Olly?
Well, I am a couple of things. I'm a firm believer in standing out from the crowd in terms of what you do as a cover. So, something like that, I knew I wanted that real high contrast because I knew it would sort of stand out. And secondly, people probably would be a bit shocked to hear this. Well, shocked is probably a bit of a strong word, but one of my favourite artists of all time, or designers anyway, is Saul Bass.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Saul Bass was the guy that he was sort of predominantly around in the 50s, 60s, going into the 70s. He was known as, he was a poster artist, and he famously designed the shower sequence for Alfred Hitchcock. He did he did the Vertigo poster, he did Anatomy for Murder, which is a classic, see that sort of jagged hand sort of thing. That's Saul Bass, which is again a design classic. Now, he was the master of reducing an image down to its basic components, which I find really interesting. And I don't get as close, nowhere near as close as what Saul Bass could do, but I just find I love that idea of reducing things down to such basic sort of shapes like that, but works so beautifully at a design. It's that sort of thing where your man off the street would look at it and go, "Oh, I could draw that in 5 minutes," and you go, "Yeah, you probably could draw that in 5 minutes." Yeah, there you go, but that's probably taken hours, days, months
in the design,
thought and nailing it down to that one single image. It's not the process of the actual creation. You could literally draw that in 5 minutes, but I know every single item of that picture was considered and thought out and everything. Is quite fascinating.
That's why I get annoyed. Sorry, go on, Tim.
I was just going to say, you've done quite a few film posters yourself, haven't you? And there's a couple in the book. There's, I think, at least 3 in the book.
Yeah. Well, again, and I think people get a bit disappointed, you see, because I think they do get me, obviously, because of what I've done in the past, which is Walking Dead. That's the reason I was asked to do the Slipknot stuff, because I was a horror artist. But they're a bit.
Are you sure you read it properly?
Sorry?
Are you sure you read the description properly? Not a horrible artist, a horror artist.
Sam, are you able to show some of these images that we're talking about? Can you find some images from the book?
They're near the beginning. There's a couple of zombie film posters.
Yeah. Yeah, posters I would refuse to do now because they're zombie things. But film poster. So when, like, for instance, when I did the Slipknot thing, the conversation we initially had was Corey, the singer, was saying, "Oh yeah, I could see us all in a graveyard and blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff." And I was saying, it's not really what I want to do, Corey, because it's like everyone will do that. You've had that image probably of you multiple times, or a variation of. And my take on it was because, for those of you who don't know, the members of Slipknot, there's 9 of them. There's a lot in that band.
Crazy, isn't it?
And they're all masked up, and it's very, very heavy metal. And so my instant reaction to everything was, Andy Warhol Campbell's soup cans, all the Marilyn Monroe, screen prints and everything, multiple images, because there's so many of them. So I said, can I do that? What do you reckon to that? And he was really up for it. I think you could see it was just a different interpretation of the band, and okay, it didn't exactly come out as I wanted it to because of conflict with other less creative people. But initially that was my idea. So this was an early poster. Again, this is probably one of the earlier ones in the book. Called it was a documentary, obviously, just basically about zombie movies, but it was made by the guy, I've forgotten his Philippe. Yes, anyway.
It's on the screen there.
It says there, yes, Alexandre Philippe, who did The People versus George Lucas, which is probably one of his more famous.
Oh, right, yeah.
He did this after. And I met him, and nice guy, etc., etc. In fact, I did a couple of posters for him. I did that. And he also did a documentary just on the shower sequence of Psycho.
Wow.
52, 78, 52 or 52, 7. It was the number of cuts and the number of seconds it lasted. That was the reason for the numbers, you see. So I worked with him on that. That was a real challenge, because I was thinking, shit, Psycho. It's all bass. I've got to sort of come up with something,
There's a big expectation there, isn't there?
Yeah. But I was really pleased with the Psycho. I was quite pleased with that at the time. Now I'm not. It still holds up. Actually, it works for what it is. There we go. There's a Slipknot. So in the end, they went with a big image of Corey the singer for the front. The irony was, again, it was a drawing that took me half an hour to draw, the actual process, because it was one of the parts of this big, vast canvas that I was going to do with it all, you see. So, and the original idea for me was to take all these members and, colour them in this sort of like faux screen printy kind of way. It was all done in Photoshop at the time. But literally, time, not just have 9 panels on the front cover, perhaps multiply it by 90 panels or something like that. Or might be a bit too much, 90 panels, but say 5, times it by 5 or something like that. So it's really intense, a really intense cover. And I thought not many magazines would run with something like that.
And they'd get noticed on the shelf as well, wouldn't they?
Exactly. Yeah. But, you're dealing with people that every month will put up, the rock star that they're interviewing that month with a load of blurb down one side, and that's it. That's what they'll run with every month. So
it's pretty formulaic, isn't it?
And really hard to shake that, shake that tree, so to speak, rock the boat.
Yeah. But you had a good attempt at it anyway.
I wasn't displeased with it. At least they ran with something that was quite graphic, Because I also painted a portrait of Corey as well, like digitally painted portrait. This is when I was first doing digital, like stuff on the Cintiq and everything. So it was kind of one of my first attempts at a proper painting. It turned out all right. They ran it in the magazine actually, so it was used. But I was a bit wary that they were going to run it for the front cover, and I was like, I don't want to see that on the front cover. Again, no, not because it was crap. It was just because
it wasn't designed to be a cover image.
It wasn't designed for that. Yeah. I wanted something more graphic on the front, more colourful. So at least they did do that.
What are we looking at here, Charlie, on this artwork?
Well, this is actually some rare Walking Dead unpublished work. Yeah, it was just right at the beginning when I first started. Just out of interest, I would like to see how you draw, the characters that have already died. Before you got to draw The Walking Dead. So yeah, there's
Oh,
Morgan.
cool.
Well, yeah, I ended up obviously drawing the top 2 characters. I did end up drawing them because they reappeared further down the line in the story. But Andrea's sister, whose name escapes me, who was killed in the first.
Was it Amy?
Amy, that's right. Yeah, and the guy who was killed in issue 5 or 6, I can't remember. Anyway,
A lot of people died in that scene.
yeah,
There was a lot of death. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a lovely image, Charlie.
thank you. That's just a die by 12 years.
Oh, Iggy Pop as a zombie by the looks of things.
Well,
Yeah, man.
it was the basis of that illustration. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was published or not. It could have been a signing plate in something. I can't
Right.
remember. It wasn't a commission. I don't do it at a convention. So it could have been used as a signing plate because I did a signing plate for every slipcase edition. So that could have been for that one.
Right. I really
Now
like.
I want to see Iggy Pop play a zombie.
Yes. He must have done.
He has.
Has he?
Jim Jarmusch film.
Oh, right. I've got to
top.
watch that one then. I'm clearly not the big film buff I thought I was.
No, well, I really wanted to see it, but then I read the reviews and all the reviews. They weren't terrible reviews, but they were very lackluster reviews. And I just thought I'd almost be more interested in seeing if the reviews are terrible rather than lackluster.
Yeah.
It gives me no inspiration to watch a movie when everyone's just shrugging their shoulders and going, sort
Yeah.
of
You got one or the other, don't you? A classic or a turkey that you could just enjoy for the horror.
You kind of go halfway through it, and you go saying, "What?
Yeah.
Basically, what
Exactly.
happened?
I'd rather feel some emotion from something, whether it's negative or positive.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
So-
yeah. I'd rather hate something than be indifferent to it.
Well, that's Friedrich Nietzsche's whole theory behind art, isn't it? If it gives you an emotional impact, it's art. He had some other dodgy philosophies, Friedrich Nietzsche, but we won't get into those.
It's one of his better ones. That's one of his greatest hits. So from James NG, we've got a comment. Hello from California. Is the limited edition hardcover going to be sold online anywhere? Perhaps Amazon. Thank you, gentlemen.
I think it's a limited edition. There's only 500 of those printed. And I got a feeling they're only going to be available from the BHP comics website, which I believe is bhp.com, but don't 100% quote me on that.
I think it is.
Yeah. So I think if you,
they're all still available, so go there. Yeah.
For a little while, if there's only 500, they're going to disappear pretty quick, aren't they?
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm the only person that hasn't got their copies yet. It's like I was chatting to Dave Gibbons today, and he said, "Oh, I've got my copy." He was showing me, and it was kind of like, well, "I haven't."
How come Dave's got a copy?
Well, Dave Gibbons gets a copy of
It's
every
Dave
book
Gibbons.
for everybody else. You should know that by now.
Well, to explain, it was originally a Kickstarter, so there were lots of extra bits and pieces, and I think Dave actually backed it on Kickstarter.
Did he? Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
Dave. You're listening.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was so disparaging just for a second there.
I'm sure he'll let you off. We'll have to get Dave on here, actually, Ollie, won't we? Get him to do
Yeah. Sir
Nice.
Dave Gibbons.
It should be Sir Dave, shouldn't it? Definitely.
Mhm.
Anyway, enough of that.
I've just put the BHP. It's bhpcomics.squarespace.com. So I'll just repeat that again. bhpcomics.squarespace.com. And if Sam or yourself can share the screen, I've got the homepage that's adorned by Charlie's drawing and sketches book at the moment.
Can you do that, Sam, or do you want me to do it?
Or is Sam even there?
I think he's frozen.
I've ended up being the technical advisor on the show, haven't I?
Sam's just enjoying the show, just sitting there on his bed watching.
Yeah, it's that kind of wine he's got. He's fallen asleep, hasn't
He's
he?
enjoying his wine. Yeah. Let's get it on. So there we go.
There we go.
There we go.
And hopefully, if people have got this on widescreen, they can make out the title of the BHP Comics website.
Yeah. And what I wanted to know, actually, who created that sort of CGI zombie hand? Was that you, Charlie?
No, I'd be interested. Well, I don't think it is. I presume that's Char's responsibility. Do you think, Tim?
That was my hand after I sorted out my drains.
Well, it turns you into a female hand as well. That's quite interesting. You grow your nails as well.
You've got very effeminate hands, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why, thank
Got
you.
little delicate hands, haven't you, Tim?
Yeah, he's a shirker. Those are hands of a shirker.
The hands of an editor. Hands of an editor.
No, I reckon. Looking at that, that looks like some sort of stocking that's been pulled over a hand, isn't it? Just torn a bit and coloured. It's quite effective, though.
Yeah.
Really
I thought you were going to say a stock photo, but you're right. It could be a stocking.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know if that's done especially or somebody's got a stock photo, but it's effective.
I think we'd have to ask Shah, the publisher. It was him that put that together. So yeah.
And I did want to ask, actually, guys, how you talked a little bit about how the book came about, you know, after Charlie's exhibition in Shrewsbury. But what was the genesis for the book, as far as how did you choose a publisher? How did it all come together? Did sort of Shah approach you, or did you approach Shah? How did that happen?
Well, I think it was.
Carry on.
Tom. No. I think Shah approached us simultaneously, almost, wasn't it?
Well, Tim and I are good friends from way back, aren't we?
Yeah.
Far too long.
Well, I've known you pretty much my whole professional life, so 25 years plus.
Wow.
I was going to say it's pushing on for 30 now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you came up to me, didn't you, at the Lakes last year? No.
It was.
Well, yeah, last 2019, yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, initially I was reluctant. You know, I'd had an art book done already from Image, which I'll be very honest about. I was really disappointed in because they sort of dropped the ball on so many things with that one. And then it was republished by Delcourt in France, and I actually gave Delcourt, that one, I actually gave Delcourt extra artwork. But the one thing that was really disappointing for me in the Image book was they reprinted the whole of issue 100 in the middle. I rescanned in the pages, but didn't clean them up this time. So you can see all the pen marks and everything. Because normally I'll change them to I'll scan them in, change it to obviously grayscale, and then do them as bitmaps. Because it's less memory, and it makes all the blacks black and blah 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 blah. So I didn't want to do that. So what do Image do? They tidy it up, don't they? So it looks exactly the same as The Walking Dead, and you just thought, what's the point of this? And I also sent them the pencils, again, not just as they were, not tidied up or anything like that, not cleaned up, and they upped the resolution on the pencils, so it made it look like I'd drawn it in biro. Anyway, one thing I said to Delcourt was,
"Oh no,
God's
Don't do that."
I sent the editor what I'd sent Image and said, at least, please, this is the book I want to be proud of, not the Image one, because you'll do it properly, won't you? Anyway, when it came out, it was a nicer book because the French just used nicer paper, full stop. But the bloody art in the middle again was exactly like the Image book, and I remember phoning the editor and emailing the editor and going, "What happened?" He goes, "I'm really sorry, I forgot." And I was like,
"That's weird because that's a conscious decision, isn't it, to tidy something up?"
Wow.
So it's I forgot not to tidy it up. No point during the process of tidying it up didn't he think, I'm not supposed to be doing this. All that effort to tidy the artwork when it didn't need to be tidied.
So one thing with this one, when you eventually persuaded me that it would be a different prospect to what I'd already done. And the other thing was as well, I'd already talked about doing a life drawing book as well for the lakes as well. And actually that was the clincher, because I was obviously wanting to put some of the life drawing that I'd been doing over the last 2 or 3 years into the drawings and sketches book, which now looking back on it, and I agree, I realised what Tim was trying to say. I think it made it almost too much of a schizophrenic book. But then I got talking to Julie Tate at the Lakes, who's another good friend of mine, and she offered to, we jointly published that, self-published it together with the Lakes, my life drawing book called Life, folks, available from me.
That's just from you, is it, Charlie? The Lake's not selling it as well.
No, the Lakes are selling it as well. The Lakes have got half the print run. Yeah, it was a very small print run, but it was a vanity project basically. But something I really wanted to do. So I got that out of my system. So it did pave way, for the drawings and sketches, and the idea of actually printing stuff as is, as well, was very appealing, because that's the whole point of process books. That's the whole point of art books, isn't it? To see the artwork as it is in front of, as it has just come off the drawing board,
Definitely.
So
Sam, can we see a few more bits of the book, please, mate?
I think that's one of the things that nearly everyone, I've done a kind of a few of these types of books. I've got in the background there How Comics Work with Gibbons, but everyone I know who works in the industry loves process and loves process books, and I have that same interest and that passion, and it's that peek behind the curtains, and it is as Charlie says, if you try and clean stuff up. I mean, that's why I know you've got a few of these, Charlie, but those really big, artist editions.
Oh, I love those.
The artwork reproduced exactly. So you've got all the smudges and the rubbing out and all of those kind of lines, and that archival approach. It gives you that kind of sense of, almost holding the original artwork. And that's something I've always wanted to achieve with stuff. So I've never understood that idea of like having anything looking too slick, because, you lose something, I think, in that process. You don't get to see the process.
Well, it's like doing one for the masses and one for the
aficionado.
Because the general public don't want to see it all smudgy and with all the sort of crap all over it or whatever.
They complain, wouldn't they? They'd be like, "Oh, I didn't like that." There was, there wasn't
very good. Yeah. So you do the majority. You do the one for the masses, which is the nice printed one where all the blacks are nice and black, etc., etc. And then you do. Arguably, this is not going to be this is not going to sell in the hundreds of thousands. I think we're fairly confident in that.
Tim, you're gonna have to keep working for a little bit longer.
He'll never be a marketeer. He'll never be a marketeer, will he? It's like, just stick to the drawing board, Charlie.
All I'm saying is it is a niche product, because there is a small number of people that are like ourselves that are really interested in process, whether it's in art, music, whatever. If you do a process book of music, it is still a niche thing. If you go into that minutiae of how recording studios work or something like that, it's not for the majority. It's the same sort of thing with what obviously we're doing. So but it's nicer to sometimes it's nicer to appeal to a more passionate small fan base.
Oh yeah.
And
it's nice to reward those people as well that have followed you for a long time. We really appreciate your art, because they know that book is for them. You know what I mean? It's like a little reward, isn't it, to say thanks. Just had a comment from Chris Ball. As Tim says, each artist approaches their work differently, and it's so interesting to see the steps to the final piece. It is indeed, Chris. So what are we looking at on the screen here, Charlie? What's this one?
That's probably one of my earlier ones, actually. This predates Walking Dead.
Ah.
Well, it's the first time I ever did Nikolai Dante for 2000 AD, which is a connection with Robbie again, because I work. Yeah, Robbie and I have worked, on and off. Yeah, Robbie's probably, after Robert, my next most prolific collaborator, because we did White Death together. I did numerous Nikolai Dante, sort of stories for when John M. Burns wasn't doing it, or Simon Fraser wasn't doing it. It would be me. And we did a few other bits and bobs here and there as well. So this is just one of the things. I think it's the first time I ever did it. It was. It was just a 6-pager or whatever for God, this is
there's a lot of flesh on display there, Charlie.
There is, yes. Well, Nikolai Dante likes to get his kit off.
What I liked about those was because they were sort of black line, but what we were showing there was Charlie's watercolor stuff, and I think it's one of those things that, with Charlie's known predominantly as this black and white artist, but I really wanted to get some color in there, because I think you have brilliant color sense, Charlie, and particularly that cover of the zombie. I love that, and when we found that, I thought, this is perfect, this is amazing. So and it was a chance to show off another side of your work that doesn't probably get to seen as much, I think.
Yeah, I know. I do. Well, again, it's time. I do enjoy colouring stuff. I don't think I'd ever colour a strip, like a full. I think the most I've ever coloured something is, again, funny enough, the thing Robbie and I did for a book called Traces, which came out last year. Which was it last? No, 2018. It came out because to celebrate the centenary of the end of World War I. And we sort kind of revisited White Death, but not. We just did a story that spun off from the events of anyway. I'm not going to try and explain it here, but it was an 8-page story, part of this big anthology, like a very international anthology, and I coloured that. Yeah, and I got to admit, after 8 pages, I was like, "Oof, I couldn't be doing 22 pages of this every."
Because some artists love to do their own colouring, don't they? I've spoken to
I do. I'll do all my covers. I'll colour all my covers now. I mean, I did. Like this Judge Dredd one. I coloured that myself. But. Yeah, I mean, I've just done, you probably know, I did this 6-issue variant for the first 6 issues of The Walking Dead in colour, which was a linking sort of, I coloured all that myself. And what I'm going to do with other issues of The Walking Dead is basically any cover I really, really hate of mine.
You can redo it.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of those. I'm going to redo. I mean, Robert's already said we are reprinting the original cover. I was like, yeah, I know, but I'd like to do a better version of all of those. So I think I will be doing quite a few variants over the next few years of The Walking Dead, deluxe. But they'll all be coloured. I will colour all those. I literally did a variant for. I can't remember the name of that comic. It was for Aftershock Comics. Down by Blood? Yes.
Undone by Blood.
Sorry?
Undone by Blood.
Yes, that's it. Undone by Blood. Yeah. But they literally just, I think, started to preview the cover to that. I literally did that a few weeks ago. I was really pleased with how that one came out, actually. Again, all colours.
That has been announced, hasn't it, Charlie? You haven't just left it there.
I'm just trying to find it now on our website, comiccon.com.
That's all right, then.
So I'm colouring more than I ever have done, definitely. But I would probably reserve it to covers and stuff. Just haven't got the time. know it sounds a bit fatalistic, but I'll be 55 next year, and
you've got a few years in you yet.
Yeah.
I'm sort of aware of my own, not mortality. That sounds a bit grim, but I am sort of aware that in terms of time, it's not like I've got 30 years ahead of that. I can just sort of go. I can just. I want to make every project count. I think is what I'm saying. And
definitely.
And if that's the case, I don't want to be sort of stuck in the quagmire of doing pencils, inks, and colour, and then all of a sudden, you've been working on the same project, and it might only be a fairly short project in terms of page number, but all of a sudden, it's taking you 2 years to do or something like that because you're colouring it. And again, the problem with me colouring stuff is, especially, I choose generally the digital option as well because obviously it is easier and quicker. But for me, because I don't do it all the time, there we go. That's the Aftershock one.
It's nice.
It takes me a lot longer to colour something than somebody that's been doing it professionally for years, if you see what I mean. Because I just haven't got the chops, I haven't got the shortcuts, I don't, so.
Yeah, I think you talk to professional colorists, and they can really churn out pages, can't they? They know all those little tricks and shortcuts.
Exactly.
And it looks great,
Yeah, I mean, there's some brilliant colorists there that can do it by amount as well. Don't get me wrong, but I'd literally have to go away and learn everything for weeks on end to even be able to do that. So yeah.
Well, we've managed to go over the hour, as we always tend to do. So we'll probably call it a night. Before we do that, though, we've already established where you can buy the book from direct, the hardback. But what are the outlets, Tim, for buying the book? If anyone wants to get it, can you get it in comic shops? Can you get it online? Can you let us know how to get hold of the book?
Yeah.
Yes, very important. Very important. Very important.
No. It's getting distributed by Turnaround. So Turnaround are a great distributor. So they go to all of the comic shops, all of the book shops. So everywhere you'd expect it to be, it should be in those shops. I would definitely recommend supporting your local comic shop because they're having a tough time with it right now.
Yeah.
So whatever your local one is, get in there, ask if they haven't got it. They should be able to order it in, and it will be there in probably a week or two. So, but if they haven't got it in already, but local comic shops, local book shops should all be able to get hold of it. Or, of course, if you really want to, go to the BHP website and order it from it there as well.
Yeah, it's always best, I think, if you can, to order direct from the publisher if they've give you the option, because that works out better for the publisher. Then they get more of a cut of the money, and all publishers are struggling as well at the moment, especially independent publishers. So support those guys. Just got a little couple of comments before we go from Wolfman. Oh, he sounds like. I wonder if that's his real name.
I didn't realise we had Marv Wolfman listening in.
Cheers, guys. This has been great to listen to. Oh, thanks, Wolfman. It's always good to be on the right side of Wolfman.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Hopefully the hardcover will be available in the US. Is that going to happen? I would imagine so. I hope so. I mean, the biggest problem we've got at the moment with the exit word and things like that is postage costs have gone a bit crazy at the moment, and posting stuff out to the US is expensive, unfortunately, and vice versa, of course. So if we can get it distributed, I know that BHP do have distribution in the US, so it should be out there hopefully. So definitely the paperback, if not with a hardcover, but definitely get in touch directly with BHP and they should be able to sort you out.
Great stuff. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you giving us the time, especially it's quite late in the evening. So I hope you've already had your tea.
Oh, yeah.
I'm now going to watch the Taskmaster final.
We'll let you get on with that. Thanks to Olly, my host. my co-host. Thank you so much, mate. He's frozen, so he's just looking a bit like he looks like a great psycho.
I think he just looks like that normally.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is say good night and thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you both very soon, I hope.
See you on the other side.